All right, welcome back to the Mike and George show. And today we have a special MLB only episode here. The regular season is over, George. 162 games down the stretch. We come here. We have the playoff bracket. It is set. It was set last night. We still had some underlying things that had not yet been confirmed. Who was the AL East champion? Who was going to get the number one seed throughout the American League playoffs? Who was going to be the American League Central champion? Cleveland and Detroit were tied heading into the final day of the regular season. And then also, who was going to be the final wild card spot in the NL? We both had the Mets, George, and the Mets came up small. They missed on the final day of the regular season. All they had to do was win 2 out of 3 in Miami, and they couldn't do it. The Reds, they got the help they needed. The Reds lost, but still backed their way into the playoffs because the Mets also lost. So the Reds are your last team in the NL. So now the bracket is set. I mean, we can go, round by round. We can go AL first, NL first. These wildcard series, George, look pretty darn good.
Yeah,
I mean, this is
yeah, a lot of good baseball.
there's
Yeah,
some juicy matchups here. So where should we start off with? I mean, these. By the way, this episode we're
yeah,
going to be giving out our predictions. Basically, we're going to fill out the bracket. George and I both. So where should we start with this?
yeah. I think we can go straight into Tigers Guardians. You were just talking about that, and it's an awesome matchup, right? We got
Yeah,
one team trending straight up, one team trending straight down. Obviously, Tigers felt like halfway through the season. We said it a million times. They
it was
had this
over.
division felt like on lock, and then here we go. Guardians win. I think it was like 18 of the last 25 or something crazy like that, and they just take it kind of last minute here. So yeah, it's gonna be a good series. I do love the 3 game wild card series. They're just so fun.
Yeah.
And I'm looking into kind of the stats for this game, and my heart wants me to say Tigers. I do love the Tigers roster, and I love Scooble. I think game one I feel confident in the Tigers, but just the way the Guardians are playing right now, it's just so hard to pick against them. I did go Guardians on this one. It was probably against my best judgment. My gut, was
Yeah.
Tigers all the way back in like May. But I think I trust the Guardians more right now. I was telling you right before we started recording that they've got like the second worst
Yeah.
offense in the league this year. That's
Yeah.
by average. So there's a few other stats, but like by average, then like OPS is like under 700 for the team. But I just think the Guardians are playing great baseball. They're low on hitting, but they're fourth in ERA. They've got a bunch of starters in that rotation that can get it done. So I went Guardians here. I mean, it didn't feel comfortable for me, but I went Guardians. What about you?
I went Detroit. I know this is like two teams trending in the wrong directions. I understand that Detroit had a 15 and a half game lead a couple months ago. They blew the division. So now this 3 game series is all in Cleveland. So I think that the majority of people were like, oh, the Guardians are a wagon. They're at
Yeah.
home. They got all the momentum here. I just think Detroit finds it here in Cleveland. No one's at this point. Everyone's kicking Detroit because while they're down, they're like, oh, they blew the division. It's just Cleveland's a team of destiny at this point. They're riding high. And I think you get Tarek Skubal for game one. I don't see Cleveland doing much against him in game one. I think the Tigers offense will just figure out a way to get that first game. And then you just need one of the next two. And now Cleveland's pitching has been unbelievable. They get Tanner Bybee for game two. And if it goes to a game three, they got Sassoni here. I mean, look, their team ERA is obviously unbelievable. So, that's been keeping them in games. Their bullpen's been locked down. But
Yeah.
I still like the Tigers' arms too. Casey Mize, pitched a gem of a game on Friday night against Boston in what felt like a playoff game. So I think Detroit's got the horses to match up 3 games with. I know they just played 2 series against the Guardians. 2 3 game series. They got swept at home by Cleveland, which kind of got Cleveland within a game, and then they had that 3 game set in Cleveland just last week, and they lost 2 out of 3. They salvaged that last game in game three to get back tied with Cleveland, but they lost 2 out of 3 in Cleveland just a week ago. So now they have a third chance, a third 3 game series with Cleveland. I think they get this one. I know that Cleveland's they're riding high right now, but I just think the Tigers, when everyone's counting them out, I still think over the first 130 games, Detroit gave me no reason to doubt them in any kind of 3 game series. Obviously, so I'm going to take the Tigers here to move on, even though I don't feel good about it. This is an
Yeah.
awesome game. It's an awesome series between two awesome Central teams that can definitely make some noise. But I just kind of trust the Tigers more a little bit. I know right now you really shouldn't, but Scooble game one, I'm seeing
Yeah.
Tigers pull off the
I
win on the
totally see it.
road. And then it kind of, if you win game one, you have such an advantage because you only need to win one of the next 2 games. I mean, I don't think anyone since this wild card series has been a thing. I think every game one winner has went on to win the series. I know a couple of
Is
them have
that
gotten
right?
to game three. Yeah, a couple of them got to game three, but I mean, the Mets won game one last year and ended up winning the series in three. I think that a couple of years ago, the Padres and Mets went three, but a lot of these series are over in two.
Yeah.
Funny enough, but I'm going to go Detroit in three. I do think it goes the distance, but I'm going to take the Tigers to
Yeah.
get
I
out of
mean,
Cleveland.
I don't even hate that take. I think if you just go personnel, I think the Tigers match up probably better. But yeah, to me, it's just baseball it's such a long season that it's so easy to kind of just ride the hot hand, right?
Yeah.
Guardians get them at home. They get
Yeah.
them. They're playing their best baseball by far, obviously at the right time. And top to bottom, I don't love that Guardians lineup. And frankly, I don't love the rotation, but I think that bullpen is very, very
Yeah.
strong. Been very consistent. And I think that if the Tigers do win game one, I could very well see them winning it. But I mean, it just comes down to game one, right? Like I think if
Yeah.
they lose game one, it's just
Oh,
kind of over
it's
right
yeah.
there. And Scooble, you trust Scooble. That's your guy. You're gonna let him go in there and go give you at least six, empty the tank if he needs to. But I mean, coming down the stretch, he hasn't played his best. I think like 48 earned runs or so in the like it's just I don't know. I'm not feeling great about the Tigers right now, and I can't blame you for picking them because that's a really talented team that I was picking not too long ago. But just kind of the bullpen mishaps and the lack of consistent
Yeah.
production offensively right now leans me the other way. But yeah, I could see this. It feels like a coin flip, honestly.
It is a coin flip. It probably comes down to game one. I remember last year in Houston, Detroit won that game. School was on the bump, and they just didn't allow runs, and then game two, they came back and won. So it just feels like when you win game one, that just boost of energy kind of carries over, and you're able to take the
Sure.
series. But yeah, it's a coin flip series. Now, should we stay in the American League? We got Red Sox,
Yeah, I
Yankees.
think we should go right back down, yeah, down the American League side.
I mean, my goodness, we are getting spoiled here with the Red Sox, Yankees in the wild card. I mean, this is going to be incredible. They just played also a week and a half ago
Yeah,
in New York, who struggled with Boston all year long. I believe they were 1-8 against the Red Sox,
right,
and then
right.
they just took the last two out of three they faced against Boston
Mhm.
a couple weeks ago. So how do we think this series matches up? We actually have on this side of the bracket of the American League, we have three AL East teams. We have the entire
Yeah.
AL East on this side. So it's Boston, New York, winner faces Toronto.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to tell you is no matter what, we're getting an AFC East ALDS rematch
Yeah,
here.
AL East, ALDS, yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those. It's just a classic Boston, New York. It's going to be an awesome game or awesome three game series here. It's another one where it feels like that home field advantage is going to be huge. Obviously the Yankees are going to pack that place out. It's going to be rowdy. I have Yankees here. It's not comfortable. It's another one of those spots where honestly, top three, I really like Rodon, Fried, and Will Warren. Will Warren, maybe not full confidence, but I think it might not even be him that starts
They
the game.
have it says Schlittler is
Is
the
it Schlittler?
projected
Okay.
Thursday if it goes
Well
to Thursday.
then, okay. Well, Rodon and Fried is kind of where I'm hanging my hat here. I think that the Yankees lineup is obviously very talented. I mean, Aaron Judge is the anchor. You got a lot of guys around him that can hit. And it's a lot of fun, it feels like, and no one likes picking the Yankees. The Yankees are kind of just like the evil empire always.
Yeah.
But to me, I think that the lineups are pretty similar, and I think I lean starting pitching to the Yankees. It's close, but I think I lean Yankees. So I went Yankees here, kind of with the home field advantage, kind of a similar story to that first one. But again, it feels like I can see it go either way. It comes down to that game one, set the tone kind of thing. But this should be one of those where starting pitching kind of determines it, but the bullpen, you could just totally give it away at the end because Yankee Stadium too, a couple pop flies to right field,
Yeah.
it's a
They
different
could
game
leave.
in a blink of an eye. So yeah, I mean it's gonna be another fun one. That Red Sox lineup is super talented. Sedan Rafaela, he's been one of those stories this year. Just been so
Clutch.
fun to watch.
Clutch, yeah.
Obviously, Jaron Duran, Trevor Story, Bregman. Bregman's always great. So the Red Sox are nothing to bat your eye at, obviously. But I'm kind of taking the home team, kind of a cop out answer here, and I don't feel great about it, but I'm rolling Yankees in three.
Yeah, the Yankees are the hottest team in baseball the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they've won 8 in a row to end the year. I'm gonna go Boston. Going back to the point, so we're actually opposite on both of them here. Going back to the point,
Correlations.
I think it boils down to game one again. And
Yeah.
Crochet on Tuesday. Last time he pitched was against the Jays last Tuesday, and he shut us out through 6 or 7 innings, whatever he went. And I mentioned that the Yankees finally beat the Red Sox in a series a couple weeks ago. But the one game they did lose in that series was Sunday Night Baseball when Crochet was on the mound, and the Red Sox blew him out. So I think this is a tough. New York's riding high. They've won 8 in a row. And as a result, here you go. Tuesday, you get Garrett Crochet in the wild card. It's just a very, that's not like the most fun thing to hear if you're a Yankees
Yeah.
fans. Like, hey, we just finished the year awesome. We're 94-68. We should get, a cupcake. No, you're going to get Garrett Crochet in the mound in a wild card game. It's going to be tough. Now, they have Fried, obviously, who's awesome as well.
Yeah.
But I just think that these Red Sox bats they're coming alive here. I mean, Bregman, we know how Bregman always plays against the Yankees in the playoffs. Roman Anthony's a rookie, but, at this point, it's like you don't know what you don't know. It's like some of these we saw the Rangers a couple years ago. They had a couple of young bats just kind of like pop. It's like, well, it's October. They're going to be swinging. There's no added pressure on them. Cedar Rafael has been so clutch this year. I mean, obviously you got Trevor Story, you got Yoshiba. I mean, the Red Sox have guys in there. They have sluggers in their lineup. Just like the Yankees did. The Yankees had a ton of home runs. Obviously, that the Yankees live and die by the long ball. They're going to hit bombs, and that's kind of like their mo. If they're going to beat you, they're going to hit home runs. I just don't think I don't think they're going to be able to hit off Crochet. I just kind of have faith in Crochet here. Maybe that's just
Yeah.
because I just watched what he did a week ago to my Blue Jays. But I feel like the Red Sox and the Yankees have struggled against their division this year. They're
Yeah.
5-8 against the Blue Jays this year. I believe they're 4-9 against the Red Sox this year. So they're not good against their own division. I don't know if it's because the division just knows them better or what. But what the Red Sox and the Blue Jays both do really well is they make contact. They put the ball in play and
Yeah.
they kind of
Yeah.
force defenses to beat you. And the Yankees defense hasn't been good. It's much maligned for and they have kind of given teams extra outs. We saw in the World Series last year, Game 5, they gave the Dodgers way too many outs to even compete in that series. So you just can't do that against good teams. And now the Yankees the last 2 weeks have been facing a lot of bad teams, so they've been getting away with it. And their defense has been getting better, no doubt about it. But ultimately, best of 3 series here. Crochet versus Fried game 1. It feels like that's the series right there. Crochet versus Fried.
Sure.
I mean, we used to have wild card games just be one game, and this is what it would be. It would be Max Fried for the Yankees versus Garrett Crochet for the Red Sox. So it feels like whoever wins that game has a massive advantage. And I feel like if the Yankees get down 0-1, Rodon in an elimination game, he's good. Don't get me wrong, he's really good. But there's still some outings where he
That
gets,
pressure. That
yeah, the
pressure's real.
pressure is not. I mean, it's when you're down 0-1 at home, there's some serious added pressure there. So not saying
Yeah.
the Red Sox are going to win Game 1, but I have faith in Garrett Crochet pitching
Yeah.
a gem, and I think Boston can get enough runs off the across the board because of the way they've been playing too. Like they've been playing good baseball as well. They just took 2 out of 3 from Detroit. They took 2 out of 3 from New York before the Yankees took 2 out of 3 from them. So they've been playing better baseball. The Red Sox have. So this is another coin flip to me, but I'm going to go
Yeah.
Boston. I know they're on the road, but I'm gonna go Red Sox. By the way, I don't want to face either team. As a Jays fan, I would rather not face either one of these
Yeah.
two teams.
A divisional opponent in the ALDS. Not
It's,
ideal.
it's very scary. It's very scary. Yeah, but it reminds me of 2021 when Boston played New York in the wild card.
Sure. Sure.
Boston won, and then they took on the 100 win Rays that year, and they beat the Rays. So it's
Yeah.
like if you can win this series, you kind of can catapult yourself into. I know the
Yeah.
Jays had the time off, but I'm worried,
Yeah,
admittedly.
it just once again, like you said, comes down to that. Feels like it comes down to game 1. You know, the game 2 starters, Brian Bayo and Carlos Rodon. That'll be one of those matchups that is
Yeah,
just awesome. You know, both of those guys have awesome stuff. You know, they've had pretty solid years, both of them.
yeah.
And you know, I think it's fair to lean Red Sox, especially with the way Aroldis Chapman has been playing. You know, I
Open.
mean,
Oh my
kind of a
gosh,
guy that had just an absurd middle of the season, didn't wasn't
ridiculous.
giving up any
Didn't
runs
give
at
up any
all.
runs. No.
So if you feel confident that Chapman comes down and closes it, and obviously it's a different animal, you know, it's the playoffs, it's Yankee Stadium with his old team, Yankees
Yeah,
Red Sox. So it's not exactly as black and white as a regular season game, but I could totally see what you're saying. You know, it feels like another series where game 1 needs to go the right way. And to me, it's like almost I'm just leaning home teams here. Like I love both
yeah.
of these teams, like kind of in this matchup. Like they both
Exactly.
have
Yeah.
the 3 horses on the mound and a decent enough team that they can win this, and I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, so it'll be an awesome series.
Yeah, and by the way, if Judge and Stanton keep hitting homers, which they keep doing like regularly on a daily basis now, then they're gonna win the series. I mean, I think
Yeah,
Boston knows that to win the series, you cannot let those guys leave the yard. You gotta
yeah,
you gotta pitch around those guys if you can, nibble around them, make the bottom of the order beat you. Which the Yankees have some holes in that bottom of the order. At least the offense is unbelievable. It's very explosive, no doubt about it. Jazz also is kind of with an injury there. But they have home run power in their bats. But it's big Judge Stanton, and if you can get past those guys, you can kind of see a path to minimizing the Yankees' damage as an offense.
Mhm.
But yeah, so should we stick in the AL? Or should we go to the NL wildcards?
We can why don't you do the AL all the way
Yeah,
through?
let's just not do the
Go
AL.
through
Okay, so
go
you
through the
have
ALCS.
yeah, so you have Cleveland and Seattle. So who would you
Yeah.
have in that hypothetical?
So I took Seattle here. This is kind of where I see the Cleveland dream run ending. You know, I
Yeah,
think the more I look into Seattle is I just love everything about this team. It feels like, you know, the top 3 of Brian Wu, Luis Castillo, and Logan Gilbert, they're all just incredible. All
Casty.
have all
Yeah,
have like 95 plus fastballs with multiple other pitches. They're all 3.5 ERA or below. Brian Wu is having a very sneaky like Cy Young
yeah,
level
he's been
season.
awesome.
He's so talented. And then that lineup, you know, it starts with Cal Raleigh, obviously, but that lineup is very deep as well. You know, Randy Arozarena's playing well. Julio Rodriguez is always due for a huge series. JP Crawford's a fun guy. Jorge
Yeah.
Polanco's a fun guy. Mitch Garver can hit the long ball. So I like the Mariners a lot. I think that top to bottom, they're better than the Guardians in this one, and kind of on both sides of the baseball. You know, you've got obviously a different matchup, so I'll kind of hear your take in a second here. But I went Mariners, and I think the Mariners take care of business here pretty comfortably. And I want to see Cal Raleigh. I want to see the Seattle Magic just make a deep run. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Cal Raleigh and Suarez.
Yeah,
Eugenio
I didn't even mention
Suarez.
Suarez. Yeah,
He's got 40 bombs. So between the
yeah,
two, they have 100 bombs. That's all. They have power everywhere in the lineup. So that the Mariners can hit the long ball, which is what you need in the postseason, obviously. Josh Naylor's been super clutch for them too. They have guys that I mean, we didn't even mention them all, but yeah, the Mariners have guys in their lineup that can kind of complement their starting rotation, which obviously we know how nasty those top 3 guys are. So yeah, I think I have the Mariners and Tigers, but I have the Mariners getting it done as well. So we both have Seattle in the ALCS this year. I mentioned this on a podcast a couple weeks ago. I think it was the one we were like, hey, there's some better races down the stretch here, and sneaky Seattle has caught Houston. And if they can get playoff baseball in Seattle, that's why I think we both thought it was so huge. If they win the AL West and beat Houston, they're going to get home games.
Yeah, big
In
advantage. Yeah.
MLB, yeah, and they ended up obviously getting the division. So that means playoff baseball is coming back to Seattle. They only had that one home game in Seattle a couple years ago against Houston. That was the year Houston, basically swept their way to the World Series. They swept Seattle in 3 games. They swept the Yankees in 4 games, and then they beat the Phillies. So that Astros team was loaded. But Seattle did get that one playoff baseball game at home, and that atmosphere was electric that year that they made the playoffs in 2022. So now they're back in the playoffs, and they're gonna get at least 3 home games. I guess at least two because they have the first 2 games
Yeah.
at home, and it's a best of 5. So I guess
Yeah.
unless they lose the series in 3 or 4 games, so they're gonna get at least 3 home games. And if they can win this series, they're gonna go to the American League Championship Series, and I believe that they will. Detroit, this is kind of like one of those things. You're faltering down the stretch, and you got to go to Seattle for the first 2 games. It just feels like a tough task against a lineup that's hitting on all cylinders right now, and against those arms, against a struggling Tigers lineup. The Tigers lineup has not been scoring many runs lately. That's kind of why they've allowed the Guardians to creep back in this. They haven't been scoring very much.
Yeah.
So I like Seattle here over whoever comes out of the Central Wildcard Series. And then we have New York for you against Toronto,
Yeah.
Boston for
Some
me against Toronto.
AL East matchup.
Either way it's gonna be an electric matchup because these are division rivals. There's gonna be blood
Yeah.
here. This isn't like Central winner versus Seattle where there's no real
Yeah.
storylines there. There's some storylines here. It's either gonna be
Oh yeah.
Boston versus Toronto or New York versus Toronto. So you have the Yankees and Jays.
Yeah. I mean, so Yankees Jays, it's an awesome matchup. There's a lot to go into here, right? We talked about the Jays kind of pretty much since day one on this show.
Yeah.
And we said it. We said this team is super deep. They've got so many guys in that lineup, and there's never a break. And all they've done since then is just stay healthy and win the AL East and
Right.
overtake the Yankees. I think since we started talking about them. So, yeah, I mean, I was kind of torn on this one because I do like the Yankees. I think the Yankees are a team that you said they're playing really well, and if they're hitting the long ball, they could win this
Yeah.
series just pure firepower offense. But I did lean Jays here. I wasn't sure. I wasn't fully confident on it. I think again the home field kind of played a part in it, but just that lineup is so deep, and the rotation has been doing what they need to do, and they've got guys who are experienced guys who have been there. Having like a Max Scherzer guy, he's not even like your number one or number two. He's
Yeah.
just kind of in the mix. He's a guy who you can hopefully just go throw out there to go get me 6 outs if you need to, right? And that's what I expect. So I like the Jays here. I think that they're just all around a better baseball team. Are they playing better right now? I don't think so. And it will be a little weird because the Yankees, assuming that whoever wins the game before will be coming with the momentum, having a
Yeah.
big rivalry win potentially in it's 3 game series. And so and already the Yankees, like I said, and the Red Sox are both playing good baseball as opposed to the Jays. But I think the Jays are good enough to just kind of stifle them. Hopefully that home crowd's going to be awesome in Toronto. I expect it to. They've been
Yeah.
they've been waiting a long time to win this division over there, and they're gonna show out. I expect so. I went Jays, much to your happiness, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. They haven't won a
But
division in 10 years. So this is
yeah,
finally the first time they're gonna get a home LDS series, which is they have not happened since 2015. Remember 2015, the last time they won the division, they got that LDS series at home against the Rangers. That was the infamous Joey Bautista or Jose
that was
Bautista.
was that Bautista? Yeah,
That was the Bautista bat flip game where it came down to a game 5. It went the distance in that LDS. I think this one will go the distance too. I think whoever gets there. I
yeah,
have Boston in this hypothetical scenario,
mhm,
but I think if the Yankees were to get here, it goes. I think it goes 5 games, and I think
yeah,
primarily the Jays. The reason why they needed that home field so much is because they are. If you look at their home road, they are a nasty home team. The Jays at home behind our crowd here in Toronto in
sure,
Rogers Center, especially in October. We kind of just feed off that energy. The pitching's better
yeah,
at home, the hitting's better, and we score runs at home. We can't score on the road for some reason.
yeah,
So yeah, I think outside of when we went to Coors Field for 3 games, that was obviously ball flies in Colorado. But nonetheless, yeah, when we get at home, we score runs. We're able to give our pitching a little bit of a cushion. Now Gosman pitched on Sunday, which means he doesn't have to play in the wild card, obviously, which is huge. So he'll get the game 1 ball
yeah,
on Saturday, game 1. So he'll get those 6 days off. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go Jays 3-2 over Boston. I don't feel good about facing Crochet. Obviously, I don't feel good about facing Giolito. He's kind of had a number as of recently. But overall, you got guys like Scherzer. And obviously the rotation shortened. So our biggest flaw right now was who's gonna be the Jays rotation. Obviously Barrios is out now. He's injured. So but the thing is, the playoffs, the rotation shortens anyways, and you only
yeah,
need really 4 to 5 solid innings from guys. If you get
yeah,
5 solid innings, your bullpen can, which by the way, the Jays bullpen has been playing better ball here late down the stretch in September because they went through a bit of a rough patch in August, the bullpen wise. Now they've kind of fixed it. They now know they're high leverage guys. You bring in Sir Anthony Dominguez. So now they've got guys in the bullpen who you can rely on. So it's going to come down to that probably. It's going to come down to the bullpens between Boston and the Blue Jays, or in your case, obviously the Yankees. Like it's probably going to come down to the bullpen.
Yeah.
These teams are very close. I think the starting pitching for the Jays can get them enough. I think if Max Scherzer, all you have to really ask for him to do now is, hey, in a game 3 or a game 4, give me 4 good innings. Get me across and keep me in the game, and we can turn it over to our other long, bulky relief guys like an Eric Lauer or something like that. Or
Yeah.
now we have Trey Savage, who's a rookie who came up a couple weeks ago, but he's been pitching awesome. So we
Yeah,
don't have to
Trey
rely on him
Songard.
now. Obviously they DFA Manoah, so Manoah obviously wasn't healthy enough to really contribute to the playoff roster. But nonetheless, I think it's probably going to come down to the arms because I like the Jays lineup and I like the Red Sox lineup as well. Now, obviously, you hope that Bichette's healthy for the Jays. That's why getting that bye was so important because it's obvious the way John Schneider said it's like he's not going to be healthy for a wild card series. He's not going to be able to play now with the division series starting on Saturday. You get a week off, which is a bit of a double edged sword. It's like you want to be if you're
But
rusty
if you're
heading
getting
in.
healthy, it's
If you're
good.
getting healthy, it's good. You get a couple days off for Vladdy to work on his swing and work on elevating the ball, obviously.
Sure.
So yeah, it's nice to get the extra days off. Obviously, other teams have been like, it's like you'd rather have the momentum heading into the division series because it's like a double
Yeah.
edged. You're
It's
resting
one of
too
those
much.
it's in like all the sports that do the bye, you
Rest versus rust, of course.
rest versus rust, and it's sometimes you're the one seed and you think about it a little bit too much, you come out a little flat. But I think the Jays are better than that. I think they're one of their best traits, you touched on it earlier, was they put the ball in play.
Put the ball in
They
play. They
make
just make they don't
make the
strike
other
out.
team make a lot of good plays. And the Red Sox are pretty similar in that regard. So I think that the Yankees is probably maybe even a little bit of a better matchup for you guys. I think the Red Sox are probably a little bit tougher on the
Yeah, that's fine.
Jays.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it just comes down to consistency, right? The starting pitching in the playoffs is huge. Scherzer scares me a little bit, as a lifelong Nats fan. I've seen him shrink in some of these moments, but I've also seen him
Yeah.
rise to the occasion. 2019 obviously comes to mind. So it just kind of depends on which version of him you get. He's going to be out there with full. He's going to be probably touching 97, 98. He's going to
Yeah.
be out there pissed off at the world. So
Oh,
it'll be really good baseball, really fun to watch. And I think going Jays here is not a crazy take. I think the healthy Jays are a really good baseball team.
Yeah, the healthy Jays are a good baseball team. They did finally get Santander back. He had a couple of big hits in that Red Sox series and a couple of big hits in that Rays series to finish the year out and win the division. So it's going to be very interesting, no matter who it is, whether it's Boston or New York, because this 5-game series is going to be electric. There's going to be blood. There is going to
Oh yeah.
be it's going to be an absolute war
We
between
already saw George Springer made it personal 2 weeks
he
before
made
the
it
playoffs even
personal.
started. He was playing not even playing against the Yankees, and he's talking about the
He's talking about the
Yankees.
New York. Yeah, exactly.
So who
And
knows? And regardless of who it is, Yankees, Red Sox, whoever they play, and AL East, it'll be great. So
regardless of who it is, obviously Springer has history with both because Springer on the Astros faced the Red Sox in the ALCS, and Springer as an Astro faced the Yankees in the ALCS. So Springer's faced both these guys in an even more high leverage situation than the ALDS. He's faced them in the ALCS before, so he knows
yeah,
these teams.
yeah,
Obviously, they're different teams, but he knows these fan bases. He knows these
yeah. He
teams.
knows it's a
Obviously,
dynasty. Yeah,
yeah. October Springer, who has not played in the division series since going to Toronto, because remember Toronto's never gotten out of the wild card since Springer signed here, the 6-year deal.
yeah,
So it's gonna be really interesting to see October Springer back here and healthy and playing MVP level baseball. He's had an awesome year. Obviously, Springer and Judge, obviously way up here, but he's had a really good year. That's obviously getting overshadowed by the two best players in baseball, maybe right now, besides Otani.
sure.
So yeah, so we have Seattle and Toronto. We both have Seattle and Toronto, the
Yeah,
two teams that have not been here in a long time. The Jays haven't been here since 1993. They've been to the ALCS since 2016. They haven't gone to the ALCS, but they haven't gone to the World Series since 1993. The Mariners have not gone to the World Series since I don't even remember. I mean,
yeah. Have they been? I mean, it's been a
they
long
haven't
time.
won one. I don't know. I can't remember the last time they've been to one. It's been a long time.
Yeah,
They've been in the LCS before, but it's been a long time since they've been in the World Series. If they have not, I can't
they've
remember
never
exactly.
appeared in a World Series.
They've never appeared in the
That's
World Series. Okay, so this is uncharted territory here.
yeah,
Seattle and Toronto. I'll go first here because I'm the Jays fan. I
sure.
actually have Seattle beating us. Unfortunately, I think
Wow.
that their rotation is just superior to ours.
Yeah,
I feel confident that we'll get a couple at home. I don't think that we will. Here's the thing, and this is before this season started. The House of Horrors for the Jays has always been T-Mobile Park in Seattle. No lead is ever safe there. They always somehow come back and beat us. Our bullpen shrinks all the time in Seattle for some reason. I don't know why. Every time we go there, Seattle. I don't know if it's the crowd or something, but our guys are never play their best baseball in Seattle. And obviously, it's a 2-3-2 in the ALCS, right? So if say the Jays split their first two games, they're not
three in a
guaranteed to
row.
come back and play another home game
Yeah,
because obviously the next three games are in Seattle, and Seattle could take all three for all we know. So it's the 2-3-2, which I think plays advantage to the two seed here in Seattle, who would not have home field in this scenario. It would be the Jays that would have home field, but I just think I trust Seattle's arms more. I think I trust their bats more
yeah,
in clutch situations.
sure.
It's very close, but I think I'm leaning Mariners, George. I hate that I'm doing this to my own team, but I think the Mariners get to the World Series for the first time ever. I think this is just their year. It really feels like that. You get at the deadline, you get Suarez, you get Josh Naylor. Feels like those deadline moves are going to be the ones that push them over the top. The Jays' deadline moves, albeit nice, sneaky, Seranthony Dominguez, nice bullpen arm. You get a nice a bat in Ty France, former Mariner. I think ultimately the Mariners they had big more splash players. I think ultimately I like the depth of the Jays lineup. I think the Mariners ultimately have more talent a little bit, and I think they get to the World Series for the first time ever.
Yeah, I took this. I took the same side. I went Mariners as well. I was surprised to hear you go Mariners there. I mean, I think imagine the Jays get there and lose. It would be pretty heartbreaking
Oh,
as the home
right.
team as
Yeah.
well. But I mean, you're familiar with the team. You know them. So yeah, I mean, I think like you said, it's a 7 game series, obviously the LCS, and so I think it's a little bit
Yeah.
more full encompassing. And I think similar to how I said earlier, the Mariners are just top to bottom the better team in my opinion. I think that the lineup can hang with Toronto. And Toronto's got so many guys who put the ball in play who are going to get on base.
Yeah.
But I think the Mariners rotation is going to be able to put that kind of neutralize that. They got their team ERA is under 4. The Jays can't say the same there. They strike a ton of guys out. They do strike out a lot on the offensive side of the ball,
Yeah.
sure, but I think that it's going to be okay, and they're going to be able to figure it out to kind of get the offense going. It's almost Team of Destiny vibes. It feels like with
Yeah.
Cal Raleigh and
Yeah.
with an offense that. To me, I don't even think they've fully clicked yet. I think that they've still got more in the bag. I think that Randy Arozarena is a playoff hero. I think
Yeah.
that Julio Rodriguez is just so fun when he's got the spotlight on him. And then you've just got so many guys in that lineup. Obviously we talk about Gino Suarez. He's a guy that like he's kind of not even under the radar, but they don't talk about him.
They
He
don't
gets
talk
traded
about
at the deadline,
him.
and all of a sudden you got Eugenio Suarez in that lineup too. It's very dangerous, right? So I think it's a Mariners series. And obviously the home field advantage is one big thing. I think you need to take at least 2 of the 3 home games if you're the Mariners. You can't afford to drop those home games, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be so fun. It's really hard to pick this one. I think that it's like you said, uncharted territory really for both teams.
Yeah.
And if this is the actual outcome we get, which is obviously what we want, it will be really fun.
Pretty
It'd be an
awesome.
awesome series.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went Mariners here. I don't again feel great about it. It's if it even happens, but I think the Mariners are one of those teams this year. I think Cal Raleigh is having that awesome year, and I think they're going to get it done top to bottom.
Yeah, ultimately, and I go back to the 2022 Wildcard Series where Toronto played the
For sure.
Mariners, and I'm telling you, no lead is safe with these Mariners. It's largely a lot of the same guys. We were up 8-1 in that game and lost it 10-9. Heartbreak. It's still one of the most heartbreaking games I've ever seen as a
Yeah.
Jays fan. But it's like it's mostly a lot of the same guys. You still have Julio Rodriguez on that team. You still have Cal Raleigh on that team. Cal Raleigh owned us in that series. He hit like 3 homers in 2 games. You have Eugenio Suarez, who was on that Mariners team a couple years ago. Obviously, he got traded to or he signed with the Diamondbacks, but then he got traded back
It's
to
back
Seattle.
now.
So
Yeah.
he's back now. So he was on that wild card series when Seattle played Toronto a few years ago. So it's like those big bats are still in their lineup, and now you have a guy like a Rosarena who owned us in Tampa Bay in our division. So we've seen a lot of these guys, and they are known Blue Jays killers. So the Mariners really do scare me. Now, either way, if the Mariners get there, they're going to face a really good AL East team. They might have to play Boston. They might have to play New York. So the Mariners will have their hands full with whoever it is in the ALCS if the Mariners do indeed get there. But I think this is the team of destiny this year. The Seattle Mariners, I think, are
Sure.
going to the World Series for the first time. Cal
Wow.
Raleigh, home run derby champion, same year, he hits 60 home runs. I think the Mariners, I think top to bottom, I think in a wide open AL, as we talked about on previous podcast, wide open AL, I think Seattle is going to take the wide open AL this year. There's no Houston to deal with. You got
Yeah.
them off your base, so they go in there and sweep them in Minute Maid. I think Seattle is the team that comes out of the American League this year. Um,
Yeah, I think it's one of those spots where, and I'm sure we'll move on in a second here. You had the Tigers winning, and I think the Tigers are a tougher matchup for the Mariners in round 2,
yeah,
right? So I think if they can avoid the Tigers and get the Guardians the way I have it, I think that don't be shocked if the Mariners make that deep run. But the Tigers, again, like that's a dangerous team with
that's
all that
very
top
scary.
top heavy talent. So, but yeah, I like Mariners here, and we can move to the NL.
Yeah. All right, so we'll take a quick break here and we'll move over to the NL. Our NL picks, obviously another also awesome wild card series we're gonna
Yeah.
get to here after the break. All right, we are back here to talk about the National League playoffs that is also set. Let's start with Reds and Dodgers, George. I mean,
Yeah.
we didn't have this one set until the last day of the regular season. We knew it would
Yep.
be Mets versus Dodgers or Reds versus Dodgers. We end up getting the Reds. And this to me feels like the ultimate David versus Goliath series, is it not? I mean,
Sure.
it's the big
Sure.
bad yeah, it's the big bad Dodgers, whatever $500 million payroll, whatever it is, against the power of friendship Cincinnati Reds, who backed their way into the playoffs. The Reds have the longest drought in the major leagues of having not won a playoff series. They have not won
Wow.
a playoff series in a long time. This would be a pretty funny way if they do it against the Dodgers here. So it starts tomorrow night. Obviously, as we know, it's the very latest game on the game of day one of
Mhm.
the. It's going to be a 9:08 start. It's going to be Hunter Green in Dodger Stadium. What a moment for him, by the way. Hunter
Yeah.
Green getting the ball game one. Obviously, he's a flamethrower, and he's
Yeah.
going to be hoping to take the Reds for a 1-0 series lead here as he's going to pitch in Dodger Stadium against. I don't know who it's going to be for the Dodgers. It could be Yamamoto. It could be Blake Snell.
I think it's Yamamoto, but I don't know.
I think it's going to be Yamamoto game one and Blake Snell game two. Obviously, we know how good
Yeah.
of a playoff performer Blake Snell is. I think they're going to go
Mhm.
Yamamoto game one, though. I believe you're right. So,
Yeah.
how do we see this series shaking out? Best of three.
Yeah, it'd be fun to pick it'd be fun to pick
Hilarious.
the underdog story here, right? And
Yeah.
I like the Reds. I think the Reds got a lot of great playmakers. I think Ellie De La Cruz, his best baseball is still in front of him.
Yeah.
This is a good team and it's a
Awesome.
fun
Yeah.
team. But to me, I think it's just the Dodgers are too much. I think the Dodgers take care of business pretty comfortably here. And it's baseball, so you have to kind of have one of those things where if Ellie De La Cruz hits for the cycle, you just don't know. Maybe he just steals you a game right
Maybe he
there. But
wins. Yeah.
maybe what was your game, right? So, but to me, I think that the Reds lineup just isn't quite deep enough. I
Yeah.
like TJ Friedel, I like Matt McClain. I don't love TJ Friedel. I don't love Matt McClain. And you look at the Dodgers lineup, and it's literally just MVPs everywhere.
That's
And
insane.
their rotation is just full of studs. Clayton Kershaw is in his last season. Feels like he kind of used that to guarantee him a World Series almost is. But
Right. Yeah.
it feels like a little team of destiny almost on the NL. But yeah, I think this isn't too much of a struggle for the Dodgers. The Reds are fun. They've got a solid rotation. They team ERA is under 3.9. It's a solid team, but to me, the Dodgers are just too much to handle here, and I'm not going to waste too much time on it because I think they take care of business.
I think they win in two games. I think it's a fun two games. I think maybe the Reds play them tough once.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean the Reds backed away to the playoffs. They're 83 and 79. I mean this would be an ultimate upset. I don't think people are really if the Reds somehow do pull this off and go in Dodger Stadium and win two out of three as an 83 win team, this would be one of the bigger upsets in the history of the sport. I think, right? I mean this would
Yeah,
be
sure.
yeah. I mean they're
I mean,
not going to
it's a Dodgers team that is kind of underperforming, but it's still that absurd lineup and absurd
yeah,
rotation.
their bullpen's struggling, and maybe the Reds are able to kind of, but yeah, the Reds lineup I don't think is like that daunting enough.
No.
Now maybe Ellie De La Cruz is a playoff superstar. Maybe he rises to the occasion.
Yeah, I hope
Maybe the
so.
Reds
I hope so.
that would be so fun if that does indeed happen. But I think the Dodgers end up getting it here pretty easily. The way Otani's playing, the way Freddie Freeman's playing, all
Sure.
these guys are just MVPs up and down the lineup. I mean, there really is like no weakness to this team outside of the
Mhm.
bullpen struggles recently. But yeah, I think the Dodgers, especially with their rotation and playoff experience of Blake Snell and those guys. And obviously now you got Kershaw is like a bullpen guy. He said he might come in and just give him like an
Yeah.
inning's work.
Yeah.
So he's obviously not even going to be like in a high leverage spot anymore. It's like a high leverage starting playoff guy. So it's everything's clicking for the Dodgers right now. The Dodgers should be able to take care of the Reds pretty easily. The big one
Yeah.
here though is Padres Cubs. We've known this one for
Padres
about a couple weeks.
Cubs.
Yeah, we've known this matchup is going to happen for about a week and a half now. We didn't know if it'd be in San Diego or Wrigley. The answer is it's gonna be Wrigley Field, and I'm excited that we're getting playoff baseball back in Wrigley Field. It's been a minute. It's been too long.
Yeah.
But we're gonna get some playoff baseball in Wrigley Field. I know you love the Cubs. You've been behind the Cubs for a majority of the year, obviously. I think both these teams can easily make a wild card from the wild card to the World Series. I've seen both people. I've seen
100%.
I've seen people pick the Cubs make the World Series. I've seen people pick the Padres make the
Yeah.
World Series.
Yeah. It's
Already on
a
my yeah exactly.
Well, yeah, it's a tough spot for the Brewers, honestly. The one seed Brewers kind of get tasked with
Here you
just
go.
really a beast
Yeah.
no matter what.
Yeah.
Like you said, I do love the Cubs, and kind of in my research looking at this, I just felt kind of deeper in love with the Cubs. You look at that rotation; they've got five different guys with 100+ innings and an ERA under 4. That lineup is just incredible. Not incredible, but they've been very talented all year. Pete Crow Armstrong kind of teetered a little bit, but he's still a guy that plays with so much passion, so much energy. And they just got a bunch of guys in there. Kyle Tucker, obviously, is kind of the anchor there. Michael Busch having a great year. Ian Happ been doing it in Chicago for a long time. So to me, I love the Cubs here. I think that the rotation is kind of what their underrated point is more. If
Yeah.
anything, people not really talking about the Cubs as much as I think they
Rotation's
should be.
good. Yeah.
And I don't hate the Padres. I think the Padres are a very talented team. I just don't think that they have it this year. I think this year is the Cubs are a little bit better. To me, it seems like the Padres are underperforming maybe a touch. Tatis is fine, Machado is fine, but the rest of them, I'd like to see a little more out of Cronenworth, a little more out of Merrill.
Yeah.
And maybe in the playoffs, like you said, you never know who's going to be a playoff riser. There's a lot of things that are unpredictable about the MLB playoffs. Baseball's a very, 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 very bounce here or there kind of game and things can change. But I think in a 3-game series at home, all 3 games, I really trust Chicago here to not only get it done on the mound, but I think they're going to put a lot of runs across the board. And to me, it just kind of feels like they're the more consistent team top to bottom. I mean, the Padres have kind of had flashes, and it kind of has always
Yeah.
been that way with the Padres the last couple of years with all this talent. But their spending habits, they're kind of thin in other spots. That bullpen and the rotation isn't exactly where you want it to be. So I trust the Cubs here. I went Cubs. Partially because they're at home. I've picked the home team in every wild card game, and I'm sure it'll come back to bite me a little bit. You didn't do that in the AL, but yeah, I'd like the Cubs here for sure.
I think you're probably gonna be right about this. I feel the least confident in this pick,
Sure.
but I'm gonna go Padres. I don't know what it is. I have no idea. I think that the bullpen moves they made at the deadline, I just trusted those. I'd be like, okay, I saw the other day to knock out my snakes. Unfortunately, I say my snakes, but there's some guys.
Our snakes, our
Our
snakes.
snakes, the snakes who were alive for a second there. They have a couple former Blue Jays in Lourdes Gurriel and Gabby Moreno. I just saw
Yeah,
the Padres kind of walk them down with their bullpen. You got Mason Miller
sure.
throwing 102 to end my
Yeah,
snake.
Mason Miller is a nightmare.
They got guys in their bullpen. Suarez. I do have faith in October to kind of like get them again. I don't know because the lineup has been a little bit underwhelming. Especially their superstars for the most part. But I think that ultimately you've seen Machado in these playoff series before. You've seen Fernando for sure. You've seen Merrill had an awesome playoffs last year in the wild card and then in the division series. So maybe they just find it again. I don't know. It's a very very tough series to pick. I think the Cubs are the better team for sure. And the Cubs
Yeah,
are at home, so all signs will be
yeah.
pointing. If they got them in Slam Diego, I think I'd pick the Padres with a lot more confidence than I have right now. But I don't know. I think that
Feels like logistically it's lining up for Chicago, but
logistically, it is lining up for Chicago. I don't know. I just like I like the Padres a
yeah,
lot this year,
yeah,
and this feels like a go either way series. I think it maybe goes the distance, or maybe the Cubs get them out of there quickly. But I think I like the Padres. I don't know. This is either way for the
yeah,
Brewers.
yeah,
This is like a nightmare because you're
yeah.
facing whoever wins this series. It feels like could literally take this thing and make a lot of noise. Especially if the Padres guys just find it all of a sudden here in October. I don't feel confident at all, but I'm going to go San Diego. It's my least confident of the four wild card series here because I think this is literally a go either way for me.
Sure,
The
sure.
Cubs probably should win.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go Padres. I don't know. I don't know what exactly tells me the Padres should win the series, but
Yeah,
I'm almost hoping for the Cubs because I think the Cubs Brewers LDS would be awesome. I mean, an all NL Central LDS would be awesome. I mean, that would be
yeah.
really good. But I'm going to go Padres.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's not a crazy take. I mean, that Padres lineup, there's so much star power in there. You know, if Tatis does what we expect him to do, he could hit 3 home runs in this series in 3 games and
Yeah.
really flip it on its head, right? So I don't think that's crazy at all. I mean, Cubs Padres, it'll be a lot of fun, but obviously I went Cubs, but yeah, we'll see.
It's going to be a really fun series. It kicks off tomorrow at 3 o'clock. That's the second game of the four-game slate here. It's Tigers Guardians first, then it's Padres Cubs, and then we get the two nightcaps. But that'll be really fun. Now, I guess in the NLDS, this might be the World Series right here. We both have Phillies Dodgers in the LDS. If we get this on
This
TBS,
will be, I
this will
mean,
be.
I expect it unless the Reds do something
If the
miraculous.
Reds pull off this, I mean, heck, if the Reds beat the Dodgers, they might take this thing all the way.
Yeah.
Crazy. But yeah, Phillies Dodgers in the 2 versus 3 LDS matchup would be cinematic if we are.
Yeah.
Who do we like in Philadelphia and LA?
Uh, so I think this is where we might disagree. I think you have Philly here.
I do.
I will
Yeah.
take the Dodgers. And I think part of that is, and I'm not afraid to admit it, is just personal bias. There's not a lot of part of me that's going to take Philadelphia comfortably,
Yeah.
and part of it is they lost Zach Wheeler, right?
Oh
Not
yeah.
having your guy, not having your anchor definitely hurts a ton. I like the Phillies rotation and bullpen regardless without Wheeler. Obviously with Wheeler, I think it's a very different series, but Christopher Sanchez, Jesus Luzardo, Robert Suarez, Ranger Suarez, sorry, all having very, very impressive years. Like, I mean, Christopher Sanchez has been ridiculous.
Oh
I
my
couldn't
gosh.
believe what he's been doing. But yeah, I mean, I think to me, it's kind of a similar spot where the lineups, I mean, obviously no lineup is going to compete with the Dodgers lineup, but if there
Right.
was one that was going to, I think the Phillies have that argument. And I don't know. I think it's not crazy to take Philly here, but I don't trust Philly. I haven't seen it yet. I know it's a hard place to play. The bank is tough, and they've got all these
Red
great
October.
players
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Red October and all that. And I think what's truly pushing this is my personal bias. But I'm taking the Dodgers here. I'm taking the best player in baseball, and I'm taking that lineup of MVPs that has done it. They did it last year, and I hate to say it, but it feels like a dynasty might be loading in LA. But I do want to hear your take here because I think you might have the more level-headed opinion.
No, I actually think that you might be right about this. I think the
Oh,
Dodgers. I actually no, I have the Phillies winning it just because I don't really believe in back. I think going back to back is so hard in any sport,
sure,
especially in MLB,
sure.
especially in this league where you mentioned it might just be like the bounce of the ball, a ball
Yeah,
going fair or foul,
a
a bad.
call could be an umpire's call.
It
Could be
could
an
be a
umpire's
strike
discretion.
three. It could be, oh, did he actually go? Or
Was it fair? Did it bounce over the base?
exactly right. Of course. Yeah, no, it could literally be. It's so unpredictable that I think it's so tough to win back-to-back championships. And I do think if the
Yeah.
Dodgers win the series, which they are as equipped, if not more equipped than any team to go into Red October and go into the
Oh
bank
yeah.
and probably win a game. If it's a best of five, so if they're able to go in there and win game one or game two, they probably do end up winning the series because they're going back home to LA. I mean, they should be able to win that. But if anyone's
Yeah.
equipped to go into Red October and win, it would be the Dodgers with that lineup and those guys. So yeah, you're probably right. It's just ultimately I think that someone's got to stop these guys in their before they get a dynasty going. Someone's got to stop them. I think the
Yeah.
Phillies are equipped to do it. With
Sure.
that,
Sure.
if anyone can match the Dodgers lineup and
Yeah.
the Dodgers offense tit for tat, it would be Philly.
Yeah.
I mean, the way Schwarber's been playing, oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
Schwarber's been the best player on that
he's
offense.
been the best one on the offense, and we know how good he gets in the postseason too. He kind of elevates his game in the postseason. He's obviously had an unbelievable regular season, but he's almost a guy that you don't want to face in any playoff series. I remember
Sure.
when he was on Boston a few years ago, obviously when he was on Philly, he's a guy that you just don't want to see in the playoffs. Even when he was on the
Yeah.
Cubs, it's like a guy that it's like yeah, he'll just flip a game around with a 3-run homer
Yeah.
against your best bullpen guy. It's like he will do that. He will do that. So and again, it's a shaky Dodgers bullpen as of late. I mean, we've
Yeah.
talked about it on the podcast. It's like the
You're
Dodgers
right.
bullpen has not been as locked down as it was last year when they kind of cruised to the World Series, beating the Mets in six and then beating the Yankees in five. Their bullpen just wasn't allowing runs. I mean, I think they went after that Padres game in Game Five when they allowed 0 runs in that game. They took it over and kind of just didn't allow any runs the rest of the season. It was kind of very impressive by their bullpen, their work last year in the playoffs. And sometimes that's going to happen. One of these bullpens is going to get very hot, just shut everyone down. And
Yeah.
these lineups are all very good, and the Dodgers have the best lineup out of anybody here. But I trust the Phillies bullpen much more than I trust the Dodgers bullpen.
I'd agree with
Johan
that.
Duran, yeah, Johan Duran just not allowing runs. I mean, the guy is
Yeah.
he's really good. That's a big deadline move they got from the Twins. He's got awesome stuff. I just think ultimately someone's got to come out of the NL. It's probably gonna be the Dodgers, but I think if it's anyone besides the Dodgers, it should be the Phillies. And I think the Phillies having the home
Yeah.
field here in the 2 versus 3 is a huge deal. I think that you get at least 2 games in. Obviously, Philadelphia in the bank. The Dodgers are only guaranteed to get 1 game in. If it's over in 3, they're only guaranteed to get one. It's a best of 5. You only get the first game on the. If the
Mhm.
Phillies win 3-0, there's no guarantee that it's going to go to a fourth game, obviously.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think ultimately, I think the Phillies with the home field, I think get it done. But I would not be surprised if the Dodgers. And by the way, if the Dodgers win this game, or if the Dodgers win the series, I should say, if they beat the Reds and they beat the Phillies, I think they're going to win the World Series again. I think they're going to go back
Sure.
to back. As far
Yeah.
as we love the Mariners. As far as the Mariners are, the team of destiny. We just watched the Mariners get 3 games swept at home by the Dodgers. So I think if the
Yeah.
Mariners face the Dodgers in the World Series, they're not going to win. But I think the Phillies get the Dodgers out of here in the
Yeah.
LDS.
I think I kind of agree with what you said that this is probably the World Series, like, in quote air quotes, it's 2 rounds before, but I don't see the winner of this losing after this, obviously. Yeah, to me, it's so hard to pick this. It's another one of those where it could go either way. It's baseball, 5-game series. And like you said, that Phillies lineup is very deep. It's very talented. But if Schwarber doesn't have kind of the series we expect him to, and the Dodgers have the left-handed pitchers that can kind of throw to him. I remember, obviously, I'm a Nats fan. I remember seeing Alex Vesia, Blake Snell's a nightmare against lefties. You got a lot of these guys. Clayton Kershaw's never fun to hit against lefty, righty, whatever. So there's a lot of lefties in there that can shut down the Bryce Harper and the Kyle Schwarber there.
Yeah.
And Castellanos, JT Realmuto haven't had their best year. Trey Turner's great. He's super fast. He's a game changer. But if he's not getting on base, you just don't know what you're going to get, right? So I think that I trust the Dodgers just experience. I love Yoshinobu Yamamoto, obviously.
Awesome.
And I think, and I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but they'll have Shohei if they need him for a few innings, right?
Yeah.
I think Shohei, if they need a spot or two from Shohei where he's pumping 117 miles an hour with a disgusting slurve, they'll have that too, right? So I trust the Dodgers. They play with a lot of emotion and they're kind of led by just this very calm, quiet, this beast at the top, with Shohei. So it's just, you look at this lineup and it's just like you're like falling in love. Like every time you're like, holy crap, like how do I get out of here? Like who am I pitching to? And the Phillies, no breaks at all. And the Phillies have had a great rotation all year. Love Christopher Sanchez, like I said, love Luzardo, like I said, but without their guy, without Zach Wheeler having to face this lineup, it is at home, which I'll give them credit for. They're going to have a great environment. I know they will, but I think I like the Dodgers a little more here. And what I agree is that probably that World Series preview, whoever wins this is not getting beat.
Yeah, I felt the exact same way last year when the Dodgers played the Padres in the LDS. Remember, the Dodgers had the best record, obviously been on 1 seed, but the Padres were not far behind. They were the top wild
Yeah,
card by a
yeah,
wide margin. I mean, they swept the Braves last year in the Wildcard Series as the top wild cards in San Diego, and then they were en route. They were up 2-1 on LA in the LDS. They almost had the Dodgers there. Then they lose that home game. They have to go back to Dodger Stadium. And they lose that heartbreaking Game 5. I think it was like 2-0 or 2-1, whatever it was. But
yeah,
the Dodgers, once they got past San Diego, it felt like, okay, that was the air quotes World Series, and the Dodgers had no problems the rest of the way against the 2 New York
yeah.
teams. That Mets series went 6, but it was never really that close. Like they were those games were
It
not.
felt like, yeah, it felt like the better team won.
Yeah, it's like how did the Mets even get 2 games? But nonetheless, the Mets were very impressive last year, no doubt about it. But the Dodgers were never in any real trouble except for the Padres in that LDS. It feels like this
Mhm.
series, someone's going to be up 2-1, someone's going to be down 2-1. It's like don't count them out if they're able to come back and
Yeah,
force a Game 5 and win it.
yeah,
They could take this thing all the way. It's one of those very scary teams. Whoever wins this series, because they have so much. Both teams have so much talent. But
yeah.
ultimately,
They
yeah,
have, yeah. Just
yeah.
having to play each other this early is just pretty
That's what I'm
wild.
saying. To play each other in the second round is crazy. It feels like an LCS matchup. But let's go to Brewers Cubs. You have Brewers Cubs,
Those
obviously.
Cubbies.
Padres. Yeah. So what are our thoughts?
Yeah. So I talked about I fell in love with the Cubs. This is kind of the extension of it. I think the Cubs that momentum aspect we were talking about, we're not going to see it maybe from the Blue Jays Mariners series, but I think the Cubs momentum taking down that good Padres team, and then just a really good rotation and really good lineup. I have the Cubs again here. I think that they take care of business against the Brewers. The season series actually was 7-6 in favor of the Cubs here. This is like neck and neck. I think they were 2 games worse than the Brewers. They weren't they weren't very far behind them
They were, yeah, 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 yeah.
in the standings. So yeah, I mean, it's not like the 1 versus 4 here. It doesn't feel like 1 versus 4. It feels like 1 versus 1 almost. But I like Cubs here. I think the Cubs got that magic. When Wrigley starts to believe, it's really fun. And the 5 game set and the fact that the Brewers have the home field advantage will play a role. And I don't mean to call out Milwaukee here, but it just kind of feels like over the last few years, even when they're good, even when they have these good talented teams, I don't think their stadium loves it. It's not the greatest postseason environment. I like their rotation a lot, but their lineup leaves a little bit to be desired. Christian Yelich is great. He's not even their best player. I think Sal Frelick's been playing better. So, yeah, I mean, I like the Cubs here. I think the Cubs top to bottom are just kind of a more well-rounded team, to be honest. And while the Brewers' home field advantage is going to help them, I think the Cubs take care of business here.
Yeah, I obviously have the Padres and the Brewers, but I have the
Yeah,
Padres over the Brewers. So I think, like you mentioned, it's whoever wins this Padres Cubs series
yeah,
could easily take it into Milwaukee.
trampoline. Yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, I wouldn't sleep on the Brewers for sure. I mean, this is a team
no,
that's
no,
they have the best record in baseball. I mean, this is
yeah,
they have home field throughout the entire playoffs, so they're no slouches by any means. But ultimately, the star power of whether it be the Cubs or the Brewer or the Padres rather, those bats are just tough to deal with. And I know the Brewers have been shutting out all these great lineups all year long. They've been doing their thing as far as the arms. Like they have Freddie Peralta's having an awesome year again. So the
mm,
Brewers are just finding a way, and they're
mhm.
like the cardiac kids here. It's like if they're down 3-2 late inning, seventh, eighth inning, they'll just get a big
Yeah.
hit from
Feels
somebody.
like you just trust them. Yeah.
Yeah, Jackson Churio just gets on somehow, and then they move him over, and then they drive him in. It's like they're really good situationally. So I could absolutely see the Brewers taking this. It's a best of five. I think the lengthier these series go, the more I trust the other teams because I think as the
Sure.
series goes on, you're going to start to see
A little more variance.
yeah, a
Yeah,
little
a
bit
little
exactly.
more.
So, but I think in a best of five, Milwaukee's definitely live to get to the NLCS. I think ultimately that's probably where it would end if they do get past this round. But I think again, I trust the Padres to just kind of figure it out somehow. They could easily lose in 2 games to the Cubs, and then I'd be done. But
Mhm.
I think ultimately, I think whoever wins the series. Now, obviously, the Cubs and Brewers, it's like those two teams had records that it feels like a 1 versus 1. So the NL is great, no doubt
Yeah.
about it. The NL is great, but I
That they
still
got to
think
match up with.
exactly. I think whoever wins the series, I think they're running into in my case the Phillies. So I think whoever wins the series loses to the Phillies. So I have the Padres,
Sure.
but even if the Brewers are to win, I think they lose to the Phillies. I just think the Phillies have more better players, and then obviously you have the Dodgers, and who
Yeah.
I guess whoever
And
wins, yeah,
it was the same take, obviously. You kind of spoiled my bracket a little bit with whoever wins this,
right. They're running
probably
into
wins it all. But yeah, no, I mean it's hard to
yeah,
pick away from the Dodgers or the Phillies, regardless of who wins that, right? And I think the Cubs, I have the Cubs winning, and part of it is kind of like that. It's just kind of again feels like David versus Goliath. And even though the Cubs had the better record, I think maybe. Um,
I think
yeah,
they're
because the
yeah they
Dodgers
do yeah
Dodgers won their division, but they didn't have a better record. So the Cubs had the better
correct
record. I just think the Dodgers have so many better players. That lineup, obviously, like I talked about when we were talking about the Phillies Dodgers breakdown, is just so talented. And if they beat the Phillies in Philly, I don't see them. And assuming the way it goes the way I think so, they'd
right
have the Cubs in a home field advantage spot because they're the higher seed. They won the division.
yeah
So I think that beating the Phillies was just it'll be a formality this ALCS because I think the NLCS because I think the Dodgers get it done.
right. The Dodgers would have home field in the situation. Obviously, I have the Phillies; they would have home field in the situation.
Yep.
So I'm gonna go Phillies over Padres in the
Sure.
NLCS.
A fun. That'd be a real fun one.
We
That'd be a
got it
real
a
fun
couple
one.
years ago. Remember, we got
Yeah.
Phillies Padres in 2022. I believe
Yeah.
it's 2022.
That was the Astros one. Yeah.
The Astros won it all. Yeah, and the Phillies beat the Padres in five, I believe. That was the Bryce Harper, the swing of his life,
Yeah.
down there in a rainy game
Eighth
five.
inning. Yeah.
Yeah, eighth inning in the bank, where he was able to hang Homer off Suarez, I believe. So those guys are both still here, so it could be
Yeah.
another
There you
fun
go.
one. Dodgers Cubs would be a rematch of I believe 2016 NLCS, where the Cubs beat them.
Yeah.
I believe it
Yeah.
was Cubs. It was either Cubs Mets or Cubs Dodgers. I think it was Cubs Dodgers.
No, it
Uh,
was Mets.
was it Mets Cubs? I
16,
know.
I think, was Mets. I
Okay,
think
so
maybe the LDS might have been. I don't know. I don't mean
they
to.
faced the Dodgers in one of those. I think I don't remember
Yeah.
exactly what. Maybe,
Yeah. That
maybe not.
sounds right.
But they faced the Dodgers in the playoffs before. I just don't remember what year it was. But
Yeah.
either way, we're going to be getting some fun rematches. Heck, if it's Milwaukee and LA Dodgers, that would have been the 2018 NLCS. So
Yeah.
Milwaukee was the number one seed, and
The
they faced
great the belly versus yelly year. Yeah.
yeah the Belly versus Elliott. Those are the two MVP candidates. Obviously, we know the Dodgers went on to lose to the Red Sox in the World Series. But yeah, there's a lot of teams here that have some. There's going to be some storylines, no, regardless. So in our
Yeah.
World Series, to wrap it up here, you have the Dodgers and the Mariners who
Yep.
just faced this weekend. We just saw
Yeah.
them in a three-game
Yeah.
series. The
Yeah.
Dodgers swept them, but
Yeah.
it kind of reminds me of a few years ago. The Astros and Phillies played on the final weekend of the season, and then they ended up meeting in the World Series. So it's kind of funny how those schedules work out. It's like, hey, the Mariners and Dodgers just faced each other. Now they may see
Yeah.
each other again. Um, Obviously, the Mariners had everything locked up anyway, so it wasn't like it was like huge for them. And same thing with the Dodgers; they already kind of had the West clinched over San Diego, but still
Yeah.
fun. We got to see those teams play for 3 games. That was with Kyle Raleigh and Shohei Ohtani and all those other guys. But so you have Mariners Dodgers. I have Mariners Phillies. Who do you like in
And
Mariners Dodgers? If it's an all West World Series, possibly.
yeah, it'd be an all West World Series. It'd probably be a real fun one. I mean, I think it just has to be the Dodgers here, and I obviously you don't want to pick the back-to-back champs. You don't want a dynasty in your division or in your league.
Yeah.
But I just think the Dodgers are so talented this year, and it kind of feels like a cop-out answer. Everyone thinks the Dodgers are so talented, but it's because they are.
They are.
And it's 'cause
Yeah.
they did it last year, and they return everybody. And they've got these guys, like they've got Blake Snell who's not even starting games for them, really. They've got these guys who aren't even like, they've just got so many pieces. And I think if they get to this point, it means that the bullpen has figured something out.
Right.
And if the bullpen has figured something out, I trust the Dodgers just because they're probably going to score 9 runs a game. So yeah, I think I like the Dodgers here. Obviously, the Mariners, we talked them up for a long time in the first half of this podcast of this show. I'd love the Mariners. I think this probably goes 6+ games, maybe 7. But I just think the Dodgers are just too much to handle right now. And I got to go Dodgers, and it's not that I want to, but it's just that I think it's the right
They're just
pick.
that good. Yeah, they're just that
Yeah,
good. It's nothing wrong with that. And now they have, by the way, last year in the playoffs, they didn't even have Otani pitching. He was only a DH in the
yeah,
playoffs. So now they
yeah.
have him if they want to. It's like a trump card where it's like, hey, you can just kind of throw this out
It's
here.
like, oh yeah, by the way, here's our best player that
Oh
can
yeah,
pitch
here's
for
our
you.
best player who also has like a sub 3 ERA, he's striking everybody out whenever he wants to. I think he
Who's
won
like,
like
yeah, like he's a Cy Young candidate if he's healthy,
yeah, I
probably.
think they're stretching him out a little bit longer. At first he was just
Yeah,
1 inning, 2 innings. Now I think he went like
yeah,
4 or 5 innings the other day with shutout
yeah.
baseball.
I think he's got up to
So
like 50 total innings this
they're
year
rep,
already. So
yeah, they're kind of like ramping him up for the playoffs in October here. So whenever they need him, if they need like, hey, give us 4 innings, he can do that. He can do it really effectively. This
oh
guy's
yeah,
unbelievable. So yeah, it'd be very interesting if they pull that out in the World Series against Seattle. It's like, oh yeah, hey guys, this awesome Mariners lineup. Here's Shohei Ohtani.
yeah.
I have Phillies. I have Phillies Mariners. I'm gonna go Phillies in 6. Ultimately, I think that would mean it would get back to the bank for a game 6. I'm just
Mhm.
picturing Cal Raleigh, top of the ninth, down 2, runner on. He's facing Johan Duran, and Johan Duran gets him, and the Phillies win the World Series at
Well,
home.
Johan Duran's not going to throw him the meatballs that he's been getting, is what I'm seeing
Exactly.
on Twitter,
Right.
obviously.
Yes, you're seeing that, of course. The Rockies, they kind of just handed him 5 homers that series, whatever it was.
I'd
So
give him to him.
they were just. I mean, look, it depends on the Rockies throwing meatballs all year long, so that's kind of just
Yeah,
we don't know for sure. But yeah, Cal Raleigh is an awesome year. I do think it unfortunately will end here. I have a kind of a coast battle here, so I got Seattle in the West and the Phillies in the East. I almost wanted to go Phillies Toronto to make it a 1990s kind of thing where the Jays actually last time they won the World Series, they faced
is
the
that right?
Phillies 93.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it would be funny if the Jays get back to the World Series for the first time since 93 and they face the Phillies, who they also saw in 93. So that would be fun, but I'm going to go. I need some West representation. So I need Seattle out in the West, got Phillies out in the East.
a
And,
proper, yeah,
yeah, NLAL. I think we got a good fight between those two teams here.
sure,
Ultimately, I think it makes for a good World Series. I think the Phillies get it done. I think a lot of these guys are just they've been knocking on the door. I'm a big believer. If you knock on the door so many times, eventually you're going to break the door down and win
sure,
one. I mean, we've seen it a lot. I mean, that's entirely why people like the Yankees this year. A lot of people like the other teams that are they've just been here. They've been like ALCS, ALCS, ALDS, NLDS, NLCS. They've just been in the world. Heck, the Phillies have been in the World Series before. So, and then they went to the NLCS 2 years ago against the Diamondbacks, and they went to the NLDS against the Mets. So they've been in this position before. They're very good at home. I think the Phillies get it done in 6 over Seattle. That is
sure.
my playoff. That's my World Series prediction. I hope I'm wrong. Obviously, I don't want the Phillies to
I'll,
win. You don't want the
yeah,
Phillies to
no,
win.
never want the Phillies to win. I
You
mean,
want-
I think that's an interesting one because if the Phillies do get there, and like you said, they've been knocking on the door for so long, they've been so
Yes.
close. And if it's Phillies versus Mariners, I think that it's the house of pressure on the Phillies, right?
Yes.
There's all those guys. Bryce Harper. It's like Bryce Harper
Got it.
is amazing. He's an all-time great, but he
Great.
needs that ring. He
He
needs
needs
that
it.
ring. He needs that ring for sure before he really gets to put into any conversations, right? And so I think if it's Mariners who have been kind of just the story of the year so
They've
far,
never gotten there
Cal
before either.
Raleigh, Magic might have 70 total homers by the time we get to this
Yeah.
point. So, I mean, I think if it is Mariners Phillies, a lot of pressure on the Phillies. But I mean, yeah, I'd like to think they might get it done, but who knows? But yeah, obviously I have Dodgers. I think that it's a lot of the similar storylines. Whoever wins that NLDS Dodgers Phillies is going to have a really good shot to take this thing down. And like we said, the AL feels like pretty thin this year. It feels like the NL's year probably, which was last year, obviously. But yeah, I just don't know. You look back to this bracket and who knows if the Yankees take down the Blue Jays in that ALDS. Obviously, you have Yankees losing, but
Right.
Yankees, Mariners, Judge versus
Wow,
Cal,
like
the whole MVP conversation. There's so many
storyline, yeah.
storylines here, right?
Yeah.
And so I think every game could be a storyline. So the Mariners feel like they're playing with house money, but it just feels like they're going to run into a buzzsaw no matter who they
In the
face in
NL
the World
possibly.
Series. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like Dodgers, you like Phillies, and I think those are both probably some good calls.
I think whoever gets out of the NL is gonna have an immense amount of pressure. Unless it's like Milwaukee versus the Yankees, then I think the pressure
No,
on
I
the
mean
Yankees. Yeah, but
the
like
Yankee. Well, yeah, if the Yankees are there, it's always
if
on
the
the
Yankees are
Yankees.
there, there's no pressure on whoever comes out of the NL because the
Yeah,
Yankees are
Yankees could be 500. The pressure's on the
the pressure on the
Yankees.
Yankees always. Yeah. So, but if it's like Seattle, if it's Toronto, if it's Detroit, if it's
Yeah,
Cleveland somehow,
so they
but
all feel like underdogs. Feels like all
the
underdogs, and then
AL,
the Yankees.
yes, the AL is so wide open that if any of them get there, they're probably going to be playing with house money against the NL
Yeah,
team who has a lot of
yeah,
pressure. Like we expect it to be the Phillies or the Dodgers, but even if it's like the Cubs, Brewers, or Padres, those teams have record-wise. I mean, the Phillies have the best record in baseball. So
yeah.
these teams are these teams. It feels like if not now, when? With the
Yeah.
AL, it's like it's so wide open. It's like
Who
we're
knows? Who knows what this is, right?
in
Yeah,
the
like
World Series. Like, we might get back
yeah,
next year. I don't know, but it's yeah, you're right. It's very wide open in the AL, but it kind of makes for a dangerous team if you're playing with house
oh
money.
yeah,
Who knows? So I think it's gonna be really
yeah,
good. I think it's a really interesting playoffs. But I'm just glad that we have October baseball starting this time tomorrow. I mean, this time tomorrow. We're recording this at 6 o'clock. This
yeah. I think
time
is there
exact.
is there a 1 o'clock start tomorrow or just
There is a
six
1 o'clock
o'clock?
start tomorrow on a Tuesday. It's gonna be Detroit and Cleveland. But 24 hours from this exact moment, we got Red Sox Yankees game one. That's gonna be
Yeah,
awesome. That's just gonna be perfect baseball. And obviously Padres and Cubs at 3 o'clock. That's gonna be really good too. So you got some wildcard series here that I'm just gonna be locked in on and watching very intently. Obviously, as we
yeah,
have football season going on right now, we
yeah. We've got it's MLB during the week, and then we got football on the
on the weekend,
weekends. It's
yeah.
gonna be awesome. Yeah,
We are spoiled as sports fans right now in this day and age that we live in. But yeah, thanks George. Awesome
yep,
episode. Loved hearing your predictions. We'll see who's right and
yeah.
wrong. I mean, this is
I'm
like the fun
excited.
part. It's the fun part of it. It's like at this point, October baseball is just the best. Postseason baseball is
Yeah,
the best. I mean, I'm going to be
oh yeah.
heartbroken if the Jays lose early, but it's still going to be so much fun to watch. In
Yeah,
all these,
I
all
mean,
these
you got something on it, right? Yeah, at least you got some skin in the game. I haven't,
right.
I
There's
haven't,
no
I haven't had a playoff team in 6 years, which is neither here nor there. But yeah, no, we got a good playoff
yeah
coming up for sure.
yeah. All right. Thanks George. I appreciate
Yep,
it.
of
All right.
course.